Welcome into the Bears Squad Show. I'm Joe George, post-game host, and well, what a miraculous win. The special teams comes through on a day in which everything else was kind of a struggle.
I'm Adam Sager. The offense was good, but not good enough.
And I'm Lauren Cox. The defense coming up with big turnovers to make up for otherwise some major struggles containing Ashton Jeanty.
Bear down, Chicago. It's the Bears Squad. Everything Chicago Bears every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Windy City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. From Soldier Field to the next great chapter, the Bears Squad Show starts now.
All right, welcome into the Bears Squad Show as the Bears get the victory 25-24 over the Las Vegas Raiders, a game that there's a billion things to go through. The offense had some real lows, some real highs, same for the defense, but in the end, a blocked field goal gets the win for the Bears. I mean, guys, this was a Sunday for sure, to say the least. We've seen so many blocked field goals over the last 2 weeks now. This time the Bears on the positive side of it, unlike last year even in games. So a good win. They're back to 500. Lauren, we'll start with you. Just how you feeling after the game?
Yeah, heck of a roller coaster there. Just to you kind of had this dread feeling okay, something's gonna go wrong at the end here. And I think what stood out to me the most was it felt like the first time the Bears found a way to win a game instead of finding a way to lose a game that had been such a persistent theme under the previous regime. But now it's things can actually finish when it's tight at the end. Things can finish your way instead. That's crazy.
Adam,
I love that we saw Caleb Williams lead him down the field for the go-ahead touchdown. But, man, there were a lot of problems in this game on both sides of the ball that aren't easy fixes in season, and something that Bears fans are going to have to get used to seeing time in and time again.
Yeah, it's one of those games where to see this team, to see Caleb take the offense down there, and a day when he didn't have his best stuff, and honestly didn't have much help around them. I think it's a good point, Lauren. We're it's just last year it feels like they lose this game. And I mean, last year they do lose this game. We saw Caleb Williams last year drive the Bears down the field, get them leads, and then something would go wrong either with the defense, whether it's the Hail Mary game or the Lions moving back into position or getting your field goal blocked against the Packers. It feels like everything would just always go wrong. So to see it go right this one it's a breath of fresh air, I think, for Bears fans to see it just go in your favor when so oftentimes I don't think anyone felt good, especially as that kick return is coming back. I mean, we're really seeing the advantage of this new rule be put into place. It really changes the dynamic of an end of a game. The Raiders were so easily in field goal position. I don't know if I can pin that part on the defense as much, but it just feels good to see the Bears get this victory. And I think a lot of the credit goes to the team on that last drive, getting down there, 11-play drive, getting into the end zone, and which it didn't feel like at any point, after once halftime hit that they were going to win this game. And you had all those opportunities. So it was, I feel a little surprised, to be honest. Might be the best way to put it.
It was just a surprising game in a lot of factors, right? I mean, it just seemed like they could kind of go from looking great to looking horrible in back-to-back drives, and you see defense generates 4 turnovers, and you're like, wow. And then the next drive, Ashton Jeanty breaks off whatever it was, a 60-yard touchdown run, and it's well, wait a minute, how do they keep going from really good to really bad? And same thing on offense. Orchestrate a nice drive, and then penalties and drop passes and everything falls apart, and it was just a weird sort of inconsistency that we knew this team was inconsistent, but not usually so hot and cold bipolar.
Right.
Of course, the same quarter, same half, same game,
Play by play.
Yeah.
It was weird. I mean, for me, the defense, you force 4 turnovers, and yet you still look bad in the game. I don't know how you do that, but the Bears managed to do it today. I mean, credit to Byard on both of his picks. It looked like the exact same play both times. He kind of baited them both times and broke on the ball nicely. And then Tyreek made a great play on that interception where he kind of, I don't know if he knocked himself silly there when he landed on his back because he almost took off the wrong way. And they made a couple nice plays in the run game, especially the one to force the 4th down to kick the field goal that they blocked there at the end. So a couple nice plays, but I mean, really, other than those 5-6 plays they made on defense, they weren't good. And that's a concerning thing moving forward for the Bears.
Yeah, I think it was a punt. I mean, it was a turnover or a touchdown basically on every single drive until I think the first punt was the third defensive possession after Torrey Taylor pinned him on the 2-yard line. Great punt.
Yeah.
Got that draft pick, finally paid off for the Bears. But like they finally, get a 3 and out in that situation, flip the field, which helps out a lot. But the fact that it was either boom or bust throughout the entire game is it's a strange way to see the defense. Because even like in past years, as Bears fans, like we know, like sometimes you got to rely on your defense as Bears fans to win you games. Typically, there's some stops in there too. It's not just turnover or give up a touchdown.
Yeah, the Raiders punted once in the entire game. Like and yet, like normally that would be terrible defense, right? But then you add in the turnovers. It's like it's such a weird thing. And I think on the one hand, it's nice because it's like, okay, like we knew Dennis Allen would have some boom or bust aspect of it with more man coverage, a little bit more aggressive. That's going to be giving up some big plays, but in theory, trying to make some big plays. So it feels like, okay, maybe that's built in. But at the same time, I worry because if your best defense is turnovers, that's just something that's always been historically hard to sustain at a high volume. You might be able to get 1 a game, but you're not getting 4 in back-to-back games like they did against the Cowboys and the Raiders. Like we can't expect that every week. So if that number comes down and it's 1 or 2 turnovers, and does that mean then 1 or 2 more drives that end in touchdowns? That's the difference between winning and losing.
Yeah, and then looking at the offensive side, I thought Caleb played really well again. Yeah, he made that one bad throw across his body that, arguably could have been picked when he threw to Komet. He threw the one high to Rome that, he took that shot in the back. But other than that, I thought he was really good. Some drops hurt him, especially with the numbers. But him and Rome continue to look good together. And I still want to see more of DJ Moore in this offense. It just feels like they're not even trying to get him the ball much anymore. And I just feel like he could be such a weapon still. And it's just still, maybe Ben Johnson just hasn't got that rolling yet, but man, it should happen here soon.
And especially because early when, it took forever for Caleb and Rome to start connecting, it was all to Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus was really the only guy producing at the wide receiver position early in the game. We didn't see much Luther Burden today. I mean, a couple plays they tried for him here and there, a screen pass that got blown up and just a reverse, kind of a jet reverse that was a disaster in the backfield because Max Crosby had one of the most impressive games I've ever seen from a football player. I mean, we knew he's good, but he single-handedly kept the Raiders in this game. The pass deflections that caused the interception, he had 3 pass deflections in this game. He was all over the place. I mean, the fact that Caleb was even able to have the awareness to get away from him on that final drive when he just beats Benedict was really impressive to me as well. That stood out for Caleb, but Crosby was a problem. And we knew he would be, but I think it was even more than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and on one hand, you could say, well, you got a backup right tackle who then moves over to left tackle and then a rookie right tackle in there. And on the other hand, like it wasn't necessarily as though Crosby was just like, beating them instantly off the line of scrimmage and then those guys were useless against him, right? I mean, it was just really smart, savvy, veteran-aware pass rusher who could get a pretty quick beat on how quickly Caleb was going to throw the ball on any given play. And no, like there were a couple times he just stopped rushing and just waited for Caleb to throw because he's like, I know you're going to throw it at me, so I'm just going to jump up and swat it when you did. Or when he's getting upfield, he's like, I know you're going to throw it to the flat, so I'm just going to not even try and rush the passer. I'm just going to get upfield and get in your way. And I think some of that you can just kind of like tip your cap to, like, defensive player of the year caliber player, that you're just not going to see that every single week, but you are still going to see guys like, Trey Henderson, and you still got Micah Parsons down the line, that there are going to be some problems when those guys come to town, but at least everybody has problems when those guys come to town.
Yeah, and Darnell Wright should be back after the bye, which obviously helps because he's one of the better right tackles in football. But I'm interested to see what Ben Johnson has to say about switching Benedict to left tackle, putting Trapillo in, and Jones going to the bench. That because Jones was part of the problem in the first half, but Benedict was just so bad. And I know he was going against Crosby, and that's a tough assignment for your, real first action of the season, but he was rough. But yeah, I just want to see what Ben Johnson's thought process was in taking Braxton Jones out and switching that, because I thought Trapillo did okay against Max Crosby. Yeah, he's going to get beat every few times, but he definitely did better than Benedict did in the first half against Max Crosby. And so just want to see what Ben Johnson has to say about that whole situation and what are we supposed to look forward to at left tackle after the bye when it comes to Braxton Jones and Theo Benedict.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of confusion about like, okay, was that an injury or a benching? And I think almost certainly it had to be a benching, because if it was an injury, the Bears, I'm assuming they're required to give some kind of injury designation and update within a certain, I don't know if it's a certain amount of time, but there's just a window, like before the end of the game, he should
questionable to return, something like that.
And even if it's just lower body or something, and some kind of designation. So the fact that we never got a designation suggests it was not injury related, and that's surprising to me, knowing that you have the bye week next week. Like, if you were going to make the change, why make it in the middle of this game when Braxton Jones, like you said, I agree, like wasn't playing great by any means, but wasn't like struggling. I wasn't like, oh my God, the whole game plan's blown up because Braxton Jones is so bad, and yet felt like a pretty quick leash when you normally would have. But maybe they say, well, we want to at least get them guys some game experience right before the bye week, so that Trapillo and Benedict, if they're going to be your starters moving forward, at least kind of have some reps that they can point back to and say, all right, this is what full speed's like.
Yeah, Jones had his helmet on the entire second half, standing on the sidelines. We saw him multiple times, like sitting right there by the offensive coaching staff. So he was clearly benched in this game. So I'm just curious what the thought process was behind it.
Yeah, someone said that they did see him out there on field goal.
Yeah.
It was Pat, the designer, said he did see him out there on the field goal unit. So that even leads to more of like, are you hurt enough to where you can't play left tackle, but you can do special teams, or are you just benched? And I think it's fair to assume, I guess, is by the end of the show, we'll be able to go into more detail about what Ben Johnson had to say. So ultimately, before we really like deep dive into the offense and defense, what's the number one thing you guys want to point to why the Chicago Bears won this game today? Lauren?
You know, it's hard to pin it down on any one.
I know.
Really is. I mean, I guess
that's probably an unfair question.
A little bit, but like honestly, it feels weird to say because I think the defense played very poorly. But like the turnovers, I guess it's four things, not one thing. But like the turnovers were absolutely different in this game. And when you win by such a tight margin, 25-24, you take any of those turnovers away, it's probably at least 3 more points for the Raiders, and you lose the game. Like at the end of the day, any one of those individual turnovers probably had the biggest like individual swing in the final outcome. But you know, there's a lot of other things you can point to that also had really big. I mean, you could say this game came down to blocking a field goal, and you wouldn't be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, when I thought about it, when you said that question, I was like, I can't say offense because they weren't good enough today. They should have put 40 up today with the field position. What was it? They had 4 drives start inside their own territory. So, I mean, it's just, they weren't good enough today, so you can't see them. So, yeah, I'm with you on the turnovers, because if you don't get those turnovers with the way the defense was playing outside those few plays, they were going to give up some points. And so that to me was the biggest. I thought special teams was solid today. I mean, Santos didn't miss any kicks. Now, of course, they couldn't kick from, what was a 55, 56 earlier in the game because he doesn't have that leg, which is frustrating when you see a 65-yard field goal today that, set the record for an outdoor field goal. And we see 60-yarders seem like multiple times a week, and we still don't have a kicker that can do that. But I would say the turnovers definitely had the biggest impact in the victory today.
Yeah, just to go a little different, I'll just say Kairos. To give him a little bit of credit where it's due, and I agree with you. Like the punt they had in the first half, where you're in field. Most teams are in field goal range there, but they had a punt, and they didn't get it down. It went out the back of the end zone.
Yep.
But Kairos is definitely the player of the game, and it is probably unfortunate that yes, the Bears won, but the reality of this game is probably the best player for the Bears today was Santos, honestly. I mean, him and Byard are top 2 for sure, but it's like your best 2 players are, probably a kicker and Max Crosby. But the Bears found a way to win. That's all that really matters at the end of the day. All right, it's the Bears Squad Show here. We'll take our first break here. When we get back, we'll take a look at the offense, the good, the bad, the ugly, the Cole Kmet, because I think he's going to deserve his own category today. We'll get to the next here on the Bears Squad Show. Today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks. Every day we make decisions, but on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Playing PrizePicks is such a fun, simple way to add more excitement to football. You can just pick more or less on player projections like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown, and you're in the game. Caleb Williams fell a little short today. It definitely would have been the less button is the one to push for Caleb Williams statistics in this game. But maybe that's what you did because you weren't feeling as great after last week. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Today's show is also brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5 Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. What I love most is how portable they are. I've always got one in my backpack with me. Big taste, tiny shot. You can take it anywhere and get that boost when you need it. Enough with the boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine flavor an upgrade with 5 Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love or be bold and try something new in-store and online at www.5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. All right, some real ups and downs for the offense in this one. Let's start with Cole Kmet. Bad day for Cole Kmet. I mean, drops, false starts, post bye week, and we'll get to more of this on the Tuesday show that we'll do with you guys with Taylor and Lauren. But Colston Loveland can't come back soon enough. It was a bad day for Cole Kmet,
and it just feels like someone of his, locker room stature, and at this stage of his career, and honestly, like, this level of contract, not that he's like the most expensive tight end, but like he's not on some rookie contract. Like, we're in year 7 of Cole Kmet. And I get first year in the offense and stuff, but like, this is not acceptable behavior for a leader of your offense and for a player that like is supposed to be setting the example for a rookie behind him on the depth chart. Like, the expectation for Cole Kmet absolutely is and should be higher. And like, it feels like there's got to be some kind of accountability at some point where it's just like, dude, get with the program or sit on the bench. I mean, I know they don't really have other good options, but like, this is like inexcusable stuff.
Yeah, I mean, just a pathetic performance. I mean, his PFF grade better be 0 for today's game because he didn't do nearly enough in this game. That one drop they had that they ended up, getting pushed back and having to kick the field goal. It was brutal all the way around. 9 targets today. Got the most targets, only 3 catches for 46 yards. The one really bad drop. Then even the one on the sideline. I know that's a hard catch, but damn, he made an insane throw, Caleb did. And it hit him in the hands, up off the ground. You have to make that catch, as Lauren said, as a 7th-year veteran. I mean, you're supposed to be one of the leaders on this offense, and the penalties are bad enough, but consistent drops drive me insane. I've never really been a Cole Kmet fan. So, I mean, I'm fine going with Colston Loveland when he's back, which is hopefully after the bye, and Durham Smythe, because at least he's a good blocker that, can help out with what could be a rookie left tackle or a second-year left tackle if Braxton Jones is out of the lineup. So, just a very frustrating game from Cole Kmet today.
I can tell you real quick, PFF's initial grade is not 0, but they do have him as the lowest graded player on offense. In this
okay, good. You should.
I think and I don't think Pro Football Focus is the end all be all, but I do.
No, it's not.
But when you're at the bottom, it's not good, to say the least. So let's do some of the good stuff. Then we'll get to the rest of the bad for the offense. But obviously, the Caleb drive there at the end, and really all of it. I mean, they got the run game working just enough, in the those last couple possessions of the game, specifically when they started doing like the tosses to Kyle Monungai, where they were really letting him get a full head of steam. Obviously, one of them for a first down. They got called back, but he, for the most part, like, that's when the run game started going. But just getting the Bears in the position, Caleb was making some good throws. He has the touchdown to Rome Odunze, or the big throw to Rome Odunze, and the touchdown to Rome today. Another one for those guys this season. It's just incredible. So I think Caleb had a good day. It wasn't great. It wasn't his best. The throw over the middle, you definitely want back. But that throw, the one that Cole maybe could have caught, was a jaw dropping throw. I mean, that thing was incredible where he placed that. And very few quarterbacks in the NFL can. And so I think it was overall a positive day for Caleb Williams.
Can I just say that throw over the middle to Cole Kmet? Agreed. Like throwing back across your body there, not usually the smartest idea, but like Cole Kmet just stands there.
I was going to say that.
Get to him. And like, I'm not here to say like great throw per se. You expect any receiver, let alone 7th-year veteran tight end of your offense, to fight back to the football, run towards the ball, and try and make a play. But he's like waiting for it to come in his breadbasket. So
he was flat-footed, just standing there,
not moving. And it just, that stuff makes me so mad when I see any player do it, especially like adding on to Cole Kmet's game. It's just like another thing he did that just bugs the crap out of me.
Yeah, going back to Caleb, I thought he was good today. Yeah, the interception sucks, but that's just a great play by a defensive player of the year type in Max Crosby. But you continue to see growth. You continue to see, he maybe forced that throw over the middle. And that one play where he's kind of ran out of bounds, but they didn't call him out of bounds and he kind of threw it away. Like just throw it away 2 seconds earlier. The play where he tried to force the ball down the field and he had Monangai wide open right in front of him. That was kind of frustrating. But the throw early in the game to Rome that was not caught, he threw it out of the back of the end zone. That's a play that in the past he's tried to make that throw and it gets picked off or it gets tipped or it's almost an interception. Now we're seeing it where he's putting the ball a lot of times this season where it's not going to be intercepted. It's either my guy makes the play or it's out of bounds or it's away from the defense. So I like that continued development and he continues to work the pocket. He was a little more frantic today.
I don't blame him.
Against the Cowboys. Yeah. I mean, in that first 3 drives, I mean, gets any quarterback frantic, but he's still manipulating the pocket well, able to avoid pass rushers multiple times in a game and make some good plays. So I thought it was a good day for Caleb.
I do think the batted passes are a sneaky way of like, I'm a little concerned because we saw 3 of them and like, you wonder, like, is he telegraphing things too much? But then on the other side, it's a sneaky detraction on his performance that, like, that one towards the end zone that the broadcast thought was a bad throw, but I think it was going to be a pretty open throw to Odunze over of the linebacker between the safeties and the post. Like, if that pass isn't batted, it's probably a touchdown that makes his passer rating significantly higher than what we actually saw. And it got batted. So like, that's maybe partially his fault, but it wasn't like a bad throw goes down as an incompletion there. And you wonder with, one of the batted passes was a screen pass. What happens after the catch there? I mean, so it's just a thing that detracts from his box score in a way that isn't necessarily fully like a bad throw or an accurate throw, just something else that ends up hurting him more than maybe we might initially think.
Yeah, that's where I wish like there was, kind of like in baseball with like wild pitches and pass balls. I wish there was a separator for interceptions to even just be like, hey, like this one was batted at the line of scrimmage. Like it's not all on the quarterback. It's not one of those awful throws that, we've seen. It's not even like the week 1 throw, where he tried to get out of bounds or get it deep to, I think it was Zacchaeus and the Vikings picked it off. Like it's just an unfortunate play. And that's where I do think it's a good point of like the Ben Johnson coaching of just like, what's the next pivot here? Cause I do think it was clear when they showed it, like specifically on that last batted pass, like Max Crosby, he knew that it was going to be a quick throw. He didn't rush it all, and he had his eyes on Caleb Williams the entire time and put his hands up and blocked it. But he's also one of the best guys in the NFL, so it's not something you're facing every week. But I think it's a good learning tool from this game for Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. Like, how do we prevent this from happening time and time again?
And I do, and part of that is the offensive line needs to engage a little bit more. The one early that he intercepted, that Max Crosby intercepted, I mean, Dahlman was right there, and he just kind of sat back and waited for Max Crosby. But the play had already been going for multiple seconds because Crosby looped all the way around. Like, your center needs to get his hands on that guy, and that could keep him from jumping and tipping a ball or, in the line of scrimmage. These offensive linemen have a job to get into these defensive linemen to try to keep their hands down. Now, yeah, some guys still get it up. I mean, J.J. Watt was maybe the best ever at it, him and Reggie White, but your line's job is to do that. And the line did not help Caleb Williams in the run game and any of it today when it comes to that.
Seemed like they always say punish jumpers. When he jumps,
Yes.
put him on the ground. And we didn't really see them do that. And I get like sometimes like one of them was Crosby was going upfield, so like he jumps and no one's there. Like that's
Right.
There are exceptions to that, but like when he's just standing there waiting for the pass and he's gonna jump, like I get that you're scared to come to him because you're worried he's gonna run around you. But once he's left the ground, he's got this big open chest with his arms up in the air. Just hit him as hard as you can. Just literally punch him at just square up in the chest and put him on the ground and make sure that next time he jumps, he's going to think twice about how much it's going to hurt.
Yeah, and then I think that obviously from last week to this week, the biggest difference was the offensive line. I mean, they just got kind of bullied throughout it. It was not a pretty performance. And then we didn't see the run game until the very end there really have any level of success. I'm guessing, Adam, those are your long-term concerns about this team, even though they're 500 and head into the bye week.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to the offensive line, and if Darnell Wright comes back, that obviously helps, but that left tackle is a big concern. One thing I will say about Caleb this week, though, that I wanted to see more of because he had multiple opportunities was to run the ball. We saw it late in him pick up that first down on that last drive, but there was a couple times where I thought he could have taken off and just picked up a first down, even if it was only 5-6 yards, pick up the first down and move on to the next, part of the drive. But he was looking to throw the ball. And if that's part of his progression, fine. And you don't want your quarterback running the ball because look what happened to Jaden Daniels. But when it's there and open and you can get down and slide, which he's getting much better at than he was early last year. Remember the hits he was taking early last year? It was like, what are you doing? He's getting much better at sliding earlier than taking those hits. But yeah, long term, the left tackle spot is scary for the Bears moving forward.
I'm still worried about the interior with Dahlman and Jonah Jackson too. They're just still like, I was willing to give him a week or two to kind of get settled in, but now 4 games in and we're still seeing some communication issues and the same sort of mistakes that have been there the whole time. I feel like that's going to continue to be a problem where, like, if you had no other issues, you can live with that. But if you're balancing young tackles and the veterans on the inside that are supposed to be really solid or supposed to be at least better right there still aren't. Like, I need to see improvement from especially veteran players coming out of the bye week. Like we'll talk about the defense, Kevin Byard turning things around after struggling earlier, Tyreek Stevenson turning things around. Like we're seeing veteran players that have been good in the past start to be better as they're settling in. And I'm waiting for those guys on the offensive line in particular to kind of reach that point for themselves.
Yeah, I think, and I'm curious what Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams' response will be to the botched snap that put them nearly out of field goal position, made it 4th and 25. I mean, that's one where like you don't want to see that happen ever in an NFL game, and whether that's your center and your quarterback are not on the same page, your center is realizing the clock is winding down because it was, and just fired the ball back there. But Caleb Williams was not ready for the ball. That to me is the other areas where it's like it's the penalties, it's the missed blocking assignments. The offensive line is one area where we haven't, outside of last week versus the Cowboys, haven't really seen any improvements of any kind. I mean, we even saw penalties on Joe Thuney today. So it's like kind of all encompassing today for the Bears.
Now, let me ask you guys this. In a game like this where the offensive line plays this bad, how many times do you think Caleb Williams gets sacked last year? Because this was a 1-sack game with a lot of mess up front, but it doesn't feel like Caleb Williams of last year only gets out of this game sacked 1 time.
No, this is a 5 or 6 game sack.
I was going to say 7
sack game. Yeah. Like this is where Max Crosby walks out of there with 3.5 and that's credit to Caleb in his pocket awareness right now. He's on, kind of fire with avoiding sacks. And that's part of what makes him so special because, the line hasn't been good outside of the Dallas game. And, he's only been sacked a handful of times. So it's good to see him continue in that growth. But, I'm with you that Dahlman and Jackson need to step their game up and allow – because that only allows Thuney to help what may be a new left tackle in Theo Benedict next time they play in 2 weeks. So, getting those veterans right. I mean, the bye week, I think, is coming at the right time, it feels like, for the Bears. Now, you could say that a lot of times, but right where they sit right now, I think you got to be happy as a Bears fan where they sit. Yeah, you'd love to be 3-1 and beat the Vikings week 1, but with how the season started, you're good with 2-2, and you see progression in the offense.
And a quick Ben Johnson offensive line update from his press conference as we do this live. Quote, "We knew that going into the game that Ozzie was likely to get some snaps for us. We were just at a point where we weren't doing a whole lot on offense, and we felt like that might give us a little spark and ignite us on offense. So that's why they made the change."
I mean, think back to what he said 2 weeks ago now that they said he was going to be a factor for the Bears. And we were kind of wondering, like, what does that mean? Like, is he just predicting that, like, an injury will hit you at some point, or do they have plans to rotate him in? We'll have to watch the all 22 to like really see this. But I do think in general, like, it did feel better in the second half when they made the switch. Like, I don't feel like the pressure was Caleb had better pockets in the second half of the game. Max Crosby was a factor, but he was not as much of a factor in the first half as he was in the second half.
Yeah. I thought that things looked really good. I not really good, but much better than it did in the first half. But the weird thing is saying that Trapillo is going to have this impact on this team, but you're only practicing him on the right side, where Darnell Wright, who's your best offensive lineman, along with Joe Tooney, is set as long as he can come back after the bye. Like, I don't know how that factors in. Maybe they start working Ozzie back to the left and seeing what he has. I don't know why you would do that, though, after taking him away from the right.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like, it's like they're not going to make this a permanent change.
Right.
I mean, unless post-bye week Darnell Wright's at left tackle. But, like, again, why all of this movement now at just trying to make this change when, I don't know, it just seems like trying a lot of different things for not a lot of reason, or just not a lot of foresight. Like, how do we only get to this point now?
Maybe Ben's getting sick of Jonah Jackson. Like, because he's really, really struggled. And I think that's part of Ben, a big part of the offensive line problems for the first 4 games of the season has been Jonah Jackson. Maybe they start looking at Trapillo as a guard and thinking that he can come in and work in between Dahlman and Darnell Wright and be a factor that way. I don't know.
Or even Theo Bennett at guard too. I mentioned that as a position possibility for him. So and
that's where he fits better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a pretty different offensive line. Just kind of a gut feeling. Like, I think that's going to be the change. It feels like, Monday Night Football versus the Commanders. And I feel like we're going to be looking at a new look offensive line potentially for the Bears.
And real quick, if there is a change and Jonah Jackson's out at any point in this season, but yet after a bye week in week 6, how bad does that extension look for Ryan Poles? I mean, I know this isn't an in-game thing, but man, Ryan Poles' decisions just.
At least the Jonah Jackson thing, I don't know. I feel like he makes that decision with a lot of input from Ben Johnson. Like, I don't want to make 100% Ryan Poles' decision. I think he only trades for Jonah Jackson if Ben Johnson says, yes, I want him and I think I can make him better.
That's a good point.
Well, Ryan Poles has struggled at, getting tackles to be really great or bringing in tackles that are going to work. But he's also seemed to struggle with getting pressure, bringing in guys that can get pressure off the edge. And today the problem was also stopping Ashton Genty, who has been not great so far in his NFL career, had a massive breakout game for the Bears with a lot of missed tackles. We'll get into the defensive side of the ball next year on the Bears Squad Show. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. If you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Go Long. Rugiet Go Long, it's not just another ED pill. It's a pill that's a total game changer for confidence. The effects can last up to 36 hours. That's confidence all day, all night, and even into the next day. The process is also really simple. Connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online. If prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly right to your door. Ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? Head to rugiet.com. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 15% off your order. That's rugiet.com, rugiet.com, promo code LOCKEDONNFL, and make sure you use our codes so they know that we sent you. All right, so the defense, 4 turnovers, but only forces 1 punt. So it's kind of a weird game for the defense. There's a lot of really good. There's a lot of bad. A guy we kind of praised last week was Edmonds after, during the post-game show. But today, man, he looked like he couldn't tackle Ashton Genty if his life depended on it. It was not pretty what Genty was doing against the Bears. We saw some success early last week for Javonte Williams for the Cowboys. So, again, kind of like the offensive line for me, this isn't too much of a surprise to see Genty have the success that he did against the Bears in the air and on the ground. Lauren, what'd you think?
Yeah, I think the concern for me there was, I mean, we knew Genty was a good player and that he would have a big game, and that, maybe we weren't predicting a 62-yard touchdown run or whatever it was, but like I had a feeling that would be a problem. But what concerned me a little bit too is that then Mostert came in and also had some big runs. And so you can't just say, oh, well, really good running back. And also because Genty had struggled up to the point in the season. But like I was willing to say, oh, Genty's going to figure it out in week 4. Like that's a natural progression of rookie player. Like, okay, it's a Genty thing. But when it's also a Mostert thing, his first carries of the season, and he had 4 of them for 62 yards, like that's a real like defense wide issue. The only time they could stop the run was when it was a really obvious running situation on any like 3rd and 4th and 1. Andrew Billings was just 5 yards in the backfield every time. But any other running play, Tremaine Edmonds isn't running to his gaps or not holding contain on the edges, and it's just a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, the 31 carries for 240 yards as a team for the Raiders. That's 7.7 as I did my calculator there. Yards per carry, that's absolutely brutal. That's college game bad when it comes to the running game. So the Bears that's my other long-term worry about this team is the defensive line. They just don't have a difference maker. I mean, late in the game, the Raiders had the ball, and it was one of the big plays of the game. Montez Sweat was on the sidelines. We had Shamar Turner and Dominique Robinson in the game. And you're telling me that your big time paid defensive end isn't in the game in the biggest moments? When I'm looking at the other side and seeing Max Crosby, I think I saw him out of the game 3 or 4 times. Maybe. I don't even know if I saw him that many. So it's just frustrating to watch this line. And that's part on Ryan Poles as well, is, Adangbo is his big offseason signing for the defensive line. I mean, Grady Jarrett's in there as well, but he didn't play today, which is also a bummer. And I know the defense is beat up. They're missing some of their best players. But you know what? You got to have depth in this league. And so far, the Bears defense is just brutal. And the defensive line has been the biggest problem they have on defense, in my opinion.
And it didn't feel like the injury absences were like the big problem here. Like that's the frustrating part, right? It's one thing if it's like, well, okay, Nashawn Wright and Nick McLeod are getting burned over and over again.
Right.
And Noah Sewell is a problem, and the defensive tackles or whatever. But like it's like you said, it's guys that are healthy and projected starters. It's Edmonds, it's Sweat, it's Odangbo. I mean, these guys have to be better and have to be higher impact players, especially when they've got backups around them. I think the backups are performing like how you think backups will. They're going to be ups and downs, but like they need everybody else to be better. And a couple of guys we'll talk about, I'm sure, that were a lot better, helped make up for it, but they need more, especially in that front 7.
Yeah, especially like when because we gave credit to to Billings, I think, early in this game. That second possession gets the big push and helps get the stop on the quarterback sneak, and then they forces the fumble on the next one for the Bears. I think that was their second turnover of the game. It was the second offensive possession. They had 2 turnovers already. So like he had some bright spots, and kind of my thought with Edmonds is kind of how I feel about Cole Kmet right now. It's just playing himself off the roster. Like that Noah Sewell can go out there and just look better for the most part. Through 4 games, Edmonds has had 1 good game. Sewell's had better moments in all 4 of these games so far. So he's just another one of those guys that, again, that's been highly paid by the Bears front office that isn't performing in the way that they just need him to. And yeah, they're going to get a bunch of guys back. I mean, hopefully Kyler Gordon's going to come back. Like,
yeah,
I'm a little confused on why he didn't just go on injured reserve for 4 weeks instead of being up and down like this was. I don't understand, but I mean, it's been questionable. I mean, if we're going to be questionable this much and not play, I'm more confused by it. I'm not like angry about it or anything, but felt like we were going to see him play, but they gave him an extra week maybe. And you hope TJ Edwards can get back and Grady Jarrett and all these guys can start to come back and impact this team. But Lauren, to your point, I'm not sure it solves the Bears' problems.
Yeah. I mean, at some point you just got to kind of count on established veteran players that you've seen play better in the past. At some point, should figure it out and play better in the past. Like it's one thing when they're an older veteran like Grady Jarrett, who you have the aged and is he washed up question marks, but like Montez Sweat doesn't have that excuse. Dow Dengbo doesn't have that excuse. Edmonds doesn't have that excuse. And I get encouraged that someone like Kevin Byard can have a big bounce back game like this and really be dialed in when I was really disappointed with what he did at the start of the season. So it's like, okay, these guys can find it. And Tyreek Stevenson back-to-back really good games, like clearly turned a corner of some kind. Not that he's going to be this great every week, but like has made some real progress here and has been really rock solid. So like there's an ability of this defensive coaching staff to take players and help them play better. So maybe that's going to apply at some point to some of these other guys who have been struggling, but they're going to need it quickly because you can get by with a performance like this against the Raiders. But, you know, when that becomes maybe the Commanders, but certainly the Ravens and maybe the Bengals after that, this level of defense isn't going to cut it.
Yeah, I think it's a good sign that Tyreek Stevenson continues to get better. Al Harris is doing a great job with him, developing him into a player that we thought he could be early in his career. And then, you know, just kind of had the rough year last year with the Hail Mary and all that stuff that happened. And then he was just, and he didn't fit Eberflus's defense. He fits a little better in Dennis Allen's defense. I worry about even when Kyler Gordon's back. I mean, Nahshon Wright is not good. Like, how can you not find a better corner on the street than Nahshon Wright? I know he's got great size at 6'4". He's fast when he can get the ball the one time, but he is so weak. When he tried to come up in the run game a few times, I mean, they barely touched him, and he just bounced right off him and out of the play. So it's just, that's a big worry for me moving forward with this defense outside of the defensive line, because I mean, how many pressures did the defensive line get today? I don't remember many at all.
Yeah, I can't imagine as many.
Yeah, of course, it's the initial PFF data, so they haven't gone back through yet.
Right.
But Geno Smith was under pressure on 6 of his 23 dropbacks, despite Dennis Allen blitzing 11 times. So, and it doesn't include, so that could be, they may have had plays where they got pressure without blitzing. So your blitzes worked less than 50% of the time in all likelihood here. And yet both, 2 of the 3 interceptions happened on plays when he was blitzed, and 2 of those were plays when he was kept clean in the pocket. So it's a weird defensive game all around.
It was.
Yeah, because we haven't mentioned Kevin Byard or enough. I mean, he was phenomenal. He's having a much better season. Talking about like the veteran players that have been brought in that haven't been performing to the level of what you expected. Byard is not that guy. He is, I mean, he clearly, kind of like how Max Crosby kind of had a game plan, it felt like, for Caleb Williams of what he was seeing. Byard was reading Geno Smith like a book out there. Very impressive game from him. He's having a much better season. Lauren, I know like before the season started, that's a guy we talked about quite a bit, someone that you were concerned about. So that's definitely a big positive from this game.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to be able to rely on veterans like that, and hopefully that can spread a little bit more.
Brisker, now, it's weird because I feel like he's a player that if you don't talk about him, he was fine. You know, like when you normally talk about Jaquan Brisker, maybe it's a flash play here or there, but normally it's him getting beaten coverage or, you know, overrunning a tackle that he should make clearly in the open field. But to me, like, I noticed him out there a little bit, but nothing bad, nothing great. He was just fine out there today. And you know, maybe that allows Kevin Byard to use his veteran, you know-how to pick those 2 balls off by reading Geno Smith like a book, like you said, Joe, because I mean, it was weird that those plays were identical as Adam Archuleta, who's really bad at his job, pointed out in the game. Yeah, that whole broadcast was rough, but yeah, just the 2 plays that, I mean, it was even the way he played them. I mean, if you go back, he played them the exact same way, and Geno Smith read it the exact same way and still threw it. It was shocking to see them when you watch the replays of both.
Yeah, it was we're still getting initial numbers here, but it looks to be a very different coverage approach from Dennis Allen in this game. The first 3 games of the season, they played a lot of 2 deep safeties. This was the first game all season where Brisker played more strong safety than free safety. He only had 14 snaps on the deep end. It looks to be about 38 up, you know, closer to the line of scrimmage. And in previous weeks, you know, he's playing 30 to 45 snaps of free safety this week, down at 14. So they had him a lot closer to the line of scrimmage, because I think they were a lot more comfortable saying, hey, these receivers and Geno, they're not necessarily going to burn us deep the way that they were afraid Justin Jefferson would in week 1, the way that they were afraid the Jameson Williams would in week 2, and even, you know, a little bit with the Cowboys with CeeDee Lamb. Like, they played a lot of 2 deep coverages, but against the Raiders, they got a little more aggressive and said, single deep, we're going to blitz, we're going to try and be more, and then Kevin Byard gets to be in the very middle of the field instead of doing a half field a lot more. So I wonder if that's how he was able to be more aggressive coming downhill and reading the quarterback's eyes lined up with him instead of kind of from a half field angle.
So is this a good day for the Bears defense?
I mean, if they won, it has to be, right? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, 4 turnovers is a good day for the defense, but it's not a great day for the defense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's fine. Like, you did enough to win. I mean, it could have been really bad today if they didn't get 2 of those turnovers. Let's say they just had 2 turnovers. I mean, it could have been, say they pick up that 4th down when Billings went through and forced the fumble, and then they go on to score. And then the other time, say Byard doesn't pick the ball off and it's a 1st down and they go score again. I mean, this game had a chance to be really bad for the defense, but when you make the plays and force turnovers, that gives you, I mean, what's Lovie Smith always said, what's the name of the game? Forcing turnovers. And you do that, you have a much higher chance to win the game. And those 4 turnovers gave them a chance to win the game. And the special teams came through with the block at the end.
And the key word there is forced turnovers. You know, it's not like Geno Smith throws up a jump ball and you come down within the end zone, but it's like, no, defense went and took ball away with playmaking, it's not just like happens to be lucky and the ball lands in your hands. It's like, right. Nope, saw it, read it, attacked it. Like that feels more, I don't want to say more sustainable, but more replicable in the future.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's things from this defense that are good. And I think we went over all the bad stuff that, you know, I have more questions about the defense, I think, heading into the bye week in some cases than I do the offense, because we know what the offensive line is, right? Like, there's not a question there. We know the struggles. The defense, I feel like, is the one where there are a lot of players that are performing below their level, but we'll see how it looks, you know, after the break and, you know, coming up in like 13 days or whatever it is, whenever they play the Washington Commanders, and we'll see how it looks then. So, all right, we'll take our last break here. We'll kind of wrap up our final thoughts on the Bears 25-24 victory. That's all coming up next year on the Bears Squad Show.
The Bears Squad Show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app, in addition to the winnings from your $5 bet. So, you know, if you want to bet on the next Bears game, we got the bye week, so we don't know what the line is yet, but you can bet on any other game, a prop bet, any other sport. You hit that $5 bet, you win, and you get 300 extra bonus bets. So whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better when you just have a little bit something riding on the action. Maybe with no Bears game, you want to bet on whatever other game is broadcast in your area. It can be that much more fun. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today to get started.
All right, so the Bears are 2-2 heading into the bye week, and it is a different vibe, I think, from our first 2 shows versus doing these 2. So I think overall, from, you know, I feel much better about this team. Seeing them find a way to get a win this week like they did, seeing the offense put up as much success as they did last week. And again, I think for me, the biggest of all the most important thing is, like, Ben Johnson in his press conference told Caleb Williams before the last drive, he told him that this is what he's built for. He's built for this. And last year, we saw Caleb put his team in position to win at times when he wasn't playing well during the game. And he did that today. Like, that to me is the ultimate elite quarterback trait, is putting your team in a position to win the game. And he did it. So that's, to me, is my biggest final takeaway from this game, is just that Caleb did everything you could have asked for in the end, because that's when it matters most.
Yeah, I look at this game and yes, I completely agree with you about Caleb Williams. I like the fact that they were missing some pieces in Darnell Wright, Colson, Loveland on the offense. You're still missing pieces on defense. And you did what you had to do on the road. Now, yeah, it might have felt like a Bears. I mean, it was very loud when the Bears were scored, when that one time the penalty where the ref was announcing a penalty and he like stopped and had to go talk to the ref. You could hear the boos. And then as soon as he said it was on the Raiders, you could hear the cheers. So, I mean, it sounded like a home game, but you're still on the road. You go get a win. A win is a win in September. Now, can you continue to progress, get your guys healthy during the bye, come back and show more what you did against the Cowboys than what you did today. Some great things to build off of offensively. Defensively, I have my worries moving forward, but that's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah, I kind of came out of this game feeling like maybe this is kind of who the Bears are, and that maybe they're just kind of evenly matched with a team like the Raiders this season, and that's what they're going to be. It's going to be moments of like, wow, this team's doing some really good stuff, and then moments of, wow, this is really not working out, and that it feels like a lot of games are going to be like this, where yeah, they're not in that upper caliber of teams. They're not going to be a real contender. They're never going to be. They're going to be in the pretender side of the graphic, in all those segments. But like they can beat bad teams, and they can play mediocre teams tough. And so you look ahead in the schedule, like they're going to beat the Saints, and maybe they can with Jaden Daniels injured for the Commanders. Maybe they can play the Commanders tough, but they're probably not going to be able to hang with as good as Green Bay and Philadelphia playing right now. Like it just feels like they're just going to be an inconsistent team for a while this season, and that to me feels okay. Like that's about where we set expectations of like, yeah, they're 2-2 after 4 weeks. We kind of think they're about a 500 team this year. And that's probably how things are going to continue to play out. There's going to be frustrating losses and there's going to be wins that you feel like, okay, they're starting to figure something out, but it's hard to I don't think they're going to just like turn some corner and become some great team, but I also don't think they're going to regress and be as horrible as they looked against the Lions in week 2 either. Like I think they've cleared a certain hurdle, but they can only go so high. I think the ceiling is a little bit low, but we're starting to see that floor raise up a little bit too.
I am curious on that first touchdown drive after Caleb finds Rome for the touchdown, makes it 15-14. What do you think about Ben Johnson's decision there to not go for 2 to make it a 3-point game? Because I just wrote it down. I was like, that seems. I was a little surprised, just like with the way it felt like this game was going, and then now if you missed that, Phil, you missed that. Like maybe it's a totally different ball game. It's tied 24 instead of taking the extra point. So I guess in the end it works out for Ben Johnson. But I think in most situations, I think I would prefer him to go for 2. And I was a bit surprised that he wasn't as aggressive in that situation because we saw him go for it on 4th down once and try to go for it on 4th down a second time before Cole Kmet had a false start penalty that made it a 4th and 6 and they had a punt.
Yeah. I guess you have an analytical team that is, crunching these numbers. If you trust them, you hired them, so you better trust them in that situation. And maybe that's what their numbers were telling them. I was kind of feeling the same way, like go for 2, get up 3, but take the points. Every point does matter when you're in that situation, especially if you feel like, okay, we're starting to build something. We feel like we can go. And now, yeah, the defense, let the Raiders go right down the field and score. But you felt like you were building something on offense, and I thought they felt like they had a couple more touchdowns in them. Well, they didn't. They had the one at the end, but I think that you just trust your team, and if they were telling them to go for 1 there, you go with it.
Yeah, I mean, especially we saw how it went when they went for 2 at the end. Maybe they didn't feel great about their red zone package. I mean, the touchdown they scored was outside of the red zone too, and otherwise they hadn't had a ton of overall red zone success consistently in this game. So maybe we're just kind of feeling like, hey, we don't have a lot we like for this matchup because we're not running the ball the way we want to, or whatever it might be. So I think it was a combination of that, and that's the first drive of the second half. Offense marched down fairly consistently there, so maybe kind of feel like we're cooking here. Like we should be able to score again. I don't necessarily have to go for 2 here because I feel like we're gonna have a lot of time to still work this a little bit more. Plus, Stevenson just made the diving interception on the crossing route, so he's feeling like, okay, defense is getting something going, offense is getting something going. No need to really push it too much here. Let's just enjoy the 1-point lead or enjoy the 2-point lead and kind of move forward from there.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And then I think it's a good point with how the 2-point play worked on the other side, which wasn't great. Like I don't think there was anything necessarily wrong with the play design or anything like that. It just was another one of those offensive line broken plays. And I'm at least glad, it sounds weird, but like I'm glad Caleb Williams at least threw it up and tried to get a play there, because we've seen quarterbacks not do that this year where they've taken sacks. We saw Geno Smith throw the ball out of bounds like 2 weeks ago on a 4th down play. So like I'm glad there wasn't the mental mistake on that one. So that's another positive rep in a way for Caleb Williams. But I think, and Adam said earlier, like a win's a win. Like you're 2-2, and Lauren, you said like this is kind of I think where we all felt the Bears would be, going into the bye week, and it was a little bit of a roller coaster to get there, including a beatdown by the Lions. But for the most part, like this Bears team, I think in terms of expectations is pretty much right on track with where we had them at the start of the season.
And I
It's
like.
gonna be. Go ahead.
I was just say quickly, like for the most part, they've avoided adding any other major injuries. I mean, because we came into the season kind of with the TJ Edwards, Kyler Gordon stuff, and of course, like yes, like Darnell Wright missing a game is major that he's absent, but not major in terms of like duration here. So like the fact that you could get through the first 4 weeks of the season relative, I don't want to say unscathed, but like relatively unscathed. I guess, the Jalen Johnson coming back and getting hurt again, but like he was hurt to start the season. Like it wasn't a new injury for any of these guys that were super long term. So to get through 4 weeks, feeling like you're going to come out of the bye week with maybe 4 healthy starters returning, if Gordon, Edwards, Loveland, and Grady Jarrett and Darnell Wright, that'd be 5 starters could all return after the bye week, and really you're not missing anybody new that you weren't missing to start the season. Then that also is a small victory in there that can help you feel like the team can be even better 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting in 2 weeks when they face the Commanders on Monday Night Football. Another primetime game. See how things progress, as you mentioned with the injuries, but also the offense. Ben now has time to take and really watch the tape again and again and see where he can kind of change some things, see how he can dial up this run game a little bit different. Maybe Monangai gets more carries and DeAndre Swift, especially in between the tackles, because Swift is just every once in a while he'll break one and you're like, okay, that's nice. But then there's 7 more where he's running between the tackles and it's 2 yards stuffed at the line. And it's frustrating because Ben Johnson can develop a running game, but when you don't have a running back that can hit the open holes or you don't have an offensive line that is consistently opening the holes, it just never seems to be in sync. So maybe 2 weeks he can get that going a little bit better, see what's available. And, if you need to make a move off the street for a Nahshon Wright, now's the time to do it. You bring in some guys for some tryouts and see what, you find. But I think the bye's coming at the right week, and then we'll see if Jaden Daniels, is back, or you're facing Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, I did feel like I feel like I saw enough from Monangai in this game where I'm just kind of like, I'm hoping out of the bye we see more. I just want more.
I'm curious.
Yeah, again, those toss plays where you're letting him come up with some momentum seem to work better, and there's only 2 of them they ran, but it was more positive there. So I am very just curious, like if there's what else you can get. And you see late round running backs have success all the time in the NFL. So that to me is one thing I'm looking for after the bye. So overall, like I think, Lauren, what do you got there?
I was just say, like, I'm still surprised he only has 4 carries in a game like this. Like,
I know
it has 14, Monangai has 4, and still Roshan Johnson has 0. And I'm not saying Roshan Johnson fixed the running game. It just feels like if I'm Ben Johnson and it ain't working, I'm gonna try everything just to see. Like, I don't know. Even if I don't think it's gonna work with Roshan Johnson, even if I think he's been bad at practice or whatever, and he's not seeing the holes right, even in my head, everything tells me this is not gonna work. What you're trying isn't working, so let's try just anything else that you can try. And it feels like they haven't fully tapped into that.
That's exactly what I was going to just say is, man, Roshan must be really bad in practice to not even get a snap on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, he's made some nice plays on special teams, on kickoffs and stuff, but yeah, for him to not see snaps on offense and not get a carry, he must be brutal in practice. Or Ben Johnson, just for whatever reason it is, doesn't like his running style or trust him with the ball. But yeah, I would like to see Roshan, because he had some, I liked what he was doing early in his career, and yeah, some injuries slowed him down, but it wouldn't hurt to at least give him some carries, I don't think, unless he fumbles every time, which that's on him then.
The best explanation I can come up with is like when Ben Johnson talks about harping on the details and practicing like championship habits. I wonder if it's one of those things. Like, it's not so much like we don't think he's talented. It's like we don't want to reward subpar behavior with game ball opportunities, where it's like it's not a we don't trust him as a running back. It's we don't trust him to do what we ask of him to do, and all the other things that we hold every player to a certain standard, and maybe he's just not practicing as hard or hitting those details or whatever the things might be that are irrelevant of whether he can help you win the game or not. But at some point you got to draw a line and say, hey, even if we think you might help us win the game, we're not giving you the opportunities until you do whatever things. Like, that's the only thing that I would accept as a reasonable explanation at this point.
Yeah, because even if it was like that first comments he made about no block, no rock, I'm like, well, then just don't have him block. Like just for like just try it for like one carry a game. But Monunga's only getting 4. Like I don't know where the Roshan carries are gonna come from. I mean, Ben Johnson's trying. Like he's trying to run the ball. He's calling his plays, but they're not going anywhere. That's going to be, I think, the big test to this coaching staff is, can they find a way to create some semblance of a running game coming out of the bye week?
Well, and don't be surprised if you hear just some whispers or something of Ryan Poles just making some phone calls during the bye week, because now is the time when you call a Dolphins team that's really bad. The Jets are bad, Titans, and I don't know which players are on these rosters that you're calling about, but you're calling saying, hey, do you guys got any guys available? Would you be willing to talk about this guy or that guy? Especially during the bye, that's when you start making those calls. And we're 3-4 weeks away from the trade deadline. So those calls should be being made now just to start to gauge the interest, gauge who's available. And if something comes along, and we've seen Ryan Poles make trades before at the deadline, something comes along and you're like, okay, this guy I think can help us this year and in the future, maybe you swing a deal.
It's just weird that Ben Johnson talks about looking for a spark, and instead of like getting the ball in different guys' hands, it's let's bench our left tackle and try and find a spark. Like of all the sparks,
let's put in our rookie offensive lineman.
Yeah.
Hey, but you know what? A spark worked. The Bears got the victory. They win 25-24 on a blocked field goal to win the game. They head into the bye week 2-2. So Lauren Taylor-Dahl and I will be back with you guys on Tuesday night. We'll take a real look at where this Bears team stands. Maybe some running back options we'll get into on the show. Then plus you can check out Lauren Monday through Friday right here on the Locked On Bears YouTube channel with his daily show. The next post-game show will be after the Monday night game against the Commanders. Thank you all for watching, commenting. Make sure you hit that subscribe button here on YouTube as well to anywhere you get your podcasts on Apple and Spotify. We will talk to you after the Commanders game. Enjoy the off week. Have a good one. Peace.